You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same. And if you and I don't do this, then you and I may well spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it once was like in America when men were free.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, turn it down just a wee bit, eh? Children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk, Bobcat, Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from Nof, Idaho, in an actual free state. What am I?
What am I? Who am I?
I am your conservative Sherpa, guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. I am packed with bombast and shenanigans. No, I don't have any passwords for tonight because tonight's a little bit too important for that. I have to tell you, of course, that what you're about to listen to tonight consists of my opinion. My opinion only. It's just me. There are no guests. What am I doing? I am doing the job the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. And, of course, we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, context, tradition, clarity, and common sense for normal people. Politics, religion, crime, culture, race, sex, economics, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the Saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. And I'm primarily deaf, so I'm going to have to turn up these headphones so I can actually hear what I'm saying. Speaking of where am I?
Where am I?
I am on Rumble right now. Go to the SHR Media Rumble channel. I'm on X. I'm on Twitch. I am at KLRN Radio. I'm on the SHR Media Facebook page, and I'm on the SHR Media YouTube channel. And tonight, it is Tuesday night. It is February. Jesus. Okay, BZ, just do the obvious. Okay, if you can't pronounce the damn word, okay, I'm telling you right now, I don't know what the hell the deal is. We're going to get serious just for a second. No, actually, we're not going to get serious. We're going to get kind of funny up front. And then we're going to get serious. I don't know. I don't know. Since 2017, since I got my show back, I cannot pronounce the damn word February. It either comes out February. Anyway, it's the 4th of that month, the second month, the 4th day, the year of our Lord, 2025. And let's go out here. Let's go look in here. Hey, who do we have? We have Unleashed Jeremy Hansen in chat. We have Sean Lewis, whose show is The Edge, the precipice, the edge of liberty. He is here tonight. The person who reaves common sense like crazy. If there's any common sense to be reaved at all, the slightest minuscule molecule, I kind of like that. The reaver of common sense will, in fact, be able to do that. The Phantom is here. What? What Phantom? I don't get it. Hey, and Mike Fitzpatrick is here, who also reminds us, hey, it's Groundhog Month. Mission Ready Men. Those are men that are mission ready. The Earl Jackson Show here on the SHR Media Network. Big E is here. And thanks for being here, one and all, everyone. You know, I had heard a nasty rumor to the effect that something really bad happened to Congress. Yeah, apparently they did blow up Congress. Somebody else also. Hey.
You know what they say on the outside? First day of prison, they say pick out the biggest, baddest, meanest looking convict in the courtyard and f him up. That way, the other prisoners know not to f with you. Right. Wish people would stop beating me up on their first day of prison. Yeah, I know I'm big. I look bad and mean, but I'm here for mail fraud, dude. I don't even know how to fight. I only got this big because I'm a stress eater.
So please, folks, if you would, have a heart. Have a heart. Don't be so judgmental and harsh. By the way, what I'm going to display for you now, I mean, this is really cool anyway, but I'm using this as a simile for what's happening with Democrats right now. Although I just like to watch this because it's cool to watch. This is a time lapse of Mount St. Helens giving away in 1980. Here go the Democrats. Here they go. Here they go.
Now we got a big slide coming off.
It's the Democrats.
Coming off of the west slope. Now we got a whole great big eruption out of the crater.
Holy.
And we got another that opened up on the west side. The whole west side, northwest side is right down.
By the way, I am in North Idaho, and I was told that in 1980, I'm not that terribly, I'm north of Coeur d'Alene. I was told in 1980, Coeur d'Alene was buried under a foot of ash from Mount St. Helens. I think that's absolutely astounding. Hey, here's something else that I think is astounding and you'll like.
Trump gonna get all the money to deport millions of people. The same place you motherfuckers got it to fucking bus them and fly them all across the United States.
Oh,
put them up in fucking hotels, give them fucking apartments, give them free health.
By the way, FNS, caution.
And give them $3,500 a fucking month on a debit card. That's where we're gonna get it. We're just gonna stop giving them that shit and throw them the fuck out. It's pretty fucking simple. You guys already wasted billions of dollars fucking getting them here. Yes, we're going to waste billions of dollars getting them the fuck out of here and getting back to being Americans. And people are like, where's Donald Trump?
Hey, you know what? I don't disagree with that guy. They were going to get spent one way or the other. But what's this show about? This show's about spending. Oh, and I should save the. No, you know what? I'm going to save this for happy stories. I'm going to save this for a little bit later. I told certain personnel that I was going to be speaking tonight about, well, and you can see the title of the show tonight is American Taxpayers Fund the Entire Planet. And it's true. American taxpayers do, in fact, fund the entire planet, which is why the accountability of our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars is so incredibly paramount. That's essentially the thrust of the show tonight. I will hopefully be getting some happy stories in because there are some great wins that have occurred recently. But that's what the show essentially is about tonight. Now, we inherently knew, we common sense thinking individuals like you and me, because that's why you watch the show. We intuited many things since 2016, and one of the largest was the soft coup that was mounted against a presidential candidate, a presidential nominee, a president-elect, and a sitting president. We knew that because of the massive forces arrayed against Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head. Trump was allegedly impeached for doing things the Democrats themselves did in public, Biden, on video, and was pounded resultingly by an absolutely unprecedented amount of lawfare by clearly leftist, biased, and agendized district attorneys, U.S. attorneys, aided and abetted by additional leftist, biased, and agendized judges in New York, Georgia, and other similar blue states and leftist urban rat cages. Because that's how they got their names. They had to earn it. Because the DLGs, and you're going to hear me refer to them in my bitty soliloquy up front here, the DLGs are the Democrats, leftists, and globalists. Knew that eventually, unimpeded, President Trump would get to this point right now, dismantling the obvious, agendized, biased flow of cash to nothing but DLG interests, foundations, organizations, and frequently simply to themselves, because they could. It's the same reason that I left California, because I was absolutely uninterested in funding my own demise. And that's what I was doing up until the point that I left, in having my hard-earned taxpayer dollars used against me, against my thoughts, against my interests, and many cases against my physical safety. We are all tired, all of us American taxpayers, of having our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars used to skewer our own ways of life, skewer normality, skewer common sense, turning the world upside down, making black white, making left right, making the insane look sane, which brings us to USAID, which is the current beloved poster child of the DRG Democrats, leftists, and globalists. No cut of anything is ever acceptable to Democrats and leftists, and altogether, sadly, all too many Republicans. Here's what you must remember about cuts. Never forget that in politics, a budget from one fiscal year to the next, which doesn't receive an increase in its funding in DC and elsewhere, is quantified as a cut. Now, you may be thinking right now, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, it doesn't have to make sense. It's not their damn money. It's yours. It's ours. Democrats and leftists and globalists love huge government. They adore its convoluted, twisted, Machiavellian bureaucracy, and they worship the far left agenda USAID represents and holds dear. Because within another massive point that I'm sure you already realize, but I'm going to verbalize anyway, because within a big, complicated, convoluted government, anything can be buried and hidden in its multiple bureaucratic mazes. They're all mazes, and they're made to be a maze. USAID has gone rogue for decades, veritably pissing away our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars, mine, yours, promoting abortion, promoting trans units, promoting LGBT plus agendas overseas. True, this is cultural imperialism from Marxists, socialists, leftists, communists. None of that reflects true American people. None of it reflects you and me, and certainly not now. After the Electoral College win, after the popular vote win, not now. When President Trump not only exposes the leftist emperor's old clothes, but stops that bejeweled little funding stream, DLG heads explode and a meltdown occurs of gargantuan proportions. How is this happening? These agencies, USAID, have been the DLG's uninterrupted tools and mouthpieces since 1961, when JFK signed an EO for its spawning. Oh no, have you seen the various forms of social media? No, that's not what happened. Excuse me. Bullshit. That's exactly what happened. And as we have said for quite some time, anyone who lives by the EO can die by the EO. You're EIEIO. So what is done by Biden and other people can be undone. It's going to continue to be a cycle. That's just the way it is. So a top to bottom review, examination, investigation, reform, and disruption of U.S. aid is long, long overdue. At a time when U.S. debt is, as of, let's see, I calculated it back to January 7th. Okay. It's more now. It's it was then $36.22 trillion. Someone has said recently it's $37 trillion. I don't doubt that for a moment. Democrats and leftists have absolutely zero fucking interest in the slightest attempt at mitigating our debt, reducing trade deficits, stemming any bleeding whatsoever. And we're supposed to keep spending money we don't have. They are instead, what they're doing is they're yanking all the clotting materials, the anti-clotting materials, and screaming that the victim, like a good 12th century medicine, must be exsanguinated in order to save him. That's how stupid it is. The little perfumed princes and princesses couldn't care less that it's your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars that are funding the entire planet because of their agendas and their pens. Because that's all Obama needed. Some votes and a pen. They only care that the spice must flow and that its golden stream is entirely continuous and undisturbed. The true systemic shock is that Democrats, leftists, and globalists have gotten so easily away with it for so long. The second is, not only now are they becoming exposed, in other words, only now are they becoming exposed, and that one as yet unstoppable individual, think of it, one guy supposedly is standing in their way. He has the dastardly temerity to not implement such exposure, but he instead is determined to stop it because he's doing what we asked him to do. Worse yet, that guy cannot be halted by both ordinary and extraordinary measures, up to and including an attempted assassination back in June of last year. Now, when President Trump said, they're not after me, they're actually after you, he wasn't joking about that in the slightest. You, the American taxpayer, me, all of us, we are nothing but fatted calves existing but for Democrats, leftists, and globalists to carefully slit our necks for our constant blood flow, but also doing a very careful dance such that the fatted calf itself is not killed outright. That's all we are. Sadly, it's the unaware, complacent, sedated, bred in circuses laden American taxpayer who has not only enabled all of this, not only doesn't think it's an egregious, unsustainable situation, but has had it hammered into our heads that the situation right now is up to Trump, is completely normal, and anything otherwise consists of the acts. Those are the actual blasphemous acts. That was normal. The American taxpayer has been historically told and has been brainwashed into thinking, it is normal. Why should things change? Never mind that the linear Not radial, of course. I learned that being a cop. Regular cuts on your wrists, right over the brachial artery, and never mind the plastic arterial lines to the attached blood bags. Pay no attention to those things. President Trump is actually concerned about trying to reduce the staggering burden on the American taxpayer, on our shoulders, by both cutting back on government waste and cutting back on permanent Washington, as well as concomitant deep state. The deep state is, you can say it's conspiratorial, but it actually exists. You could almost go so far as to say it's the fourth branch of government. But they are revealed in their corruption. But the other revelatory aspects about this are, and you have to ask yourself, I did, who wouldn't want to reduce government bloat? Who wouldn't want to erase the burden on the American taxpayer? Who wouldn't want to ensure the efficient, responsible, and accountable dispensation of hard-earned American taxpayer dollars? Who wouldn't want to identify the true end users and benefactors of all this largesse? Who wouldn't want to audit all of these agencies and accounts in order to assure the American taxpayer, me, you, that our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars are in fact being spent well? DRGs. I know it's the Democrats, leftists, and globalists who despise now aware and awake American taxpayers. The DRG and the intel scams and the grifts have been exposed, and I've got some great examples coming for you tonight. American taxpayers are being conscious of the multiple venipunctures that are, and they're starting to wonder and look at their arms and going, where did all these lines come from? Where did all these scars come from? I don't remember them there. And they're asking questions. We are asking questions. Finally, what have we done? Why did we ignore this? Why did we consider this any form of normal? When did this begin? Who wants us blind, ignorant, complacent, and compliant? That's the end goal. Cui bono? Who benefits from all of this? What can be done to heal our various terrible wounds? Because I don't just have it, you don't just have it. Every American taxpayer has these cuts. Accountability, responsibility, transparency, obligations to the American taxpayer, duty, answerability. These are words that couldn't even be mentioned. And the American taxpayers couldn't and shouldn't have been reminded of any of those words ever. The American taxpayers were simply required to look the other way, shut up, and pay up. Oh, you're aware now. And the blivet, the 10 pounds of shit stuffed into the 5-pound bag, cannot and must not ever be shoved back into the bag because it's out. The Democrats, they have made it quite clear that the situation involving U.S. aid constitutes the greatest immediate threat right now, today, this week. And they are willing to go to war over it. Make no damn mistake. The DRG, Democrats, leftists, and globalists, their heads are exploding right now. And especially today, I won't mention this later because this just happened today. Were you aware that President Trump announced that he's demanding that Ukraine give its rare earth materials to the United States in exchange for a continuation of aid to Ukraine? Under President Trump, deals are bidirectional. They're not unilateral. The days of American taxpayer largesse for wars are fundamentally gone. The days of big gifts for nothing in return for zero American benefit, they're done. And properly and rightly so. If for no other consideration than attempting to lighten the load on us, the American taxpayer. Because our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars fund the entire fucking planet. The truth is, now we're going to get into the weeds a little bit. By the way, thanks everybody for watching. 30 people are watching live right now. And if you would, subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. Subscribe to the SHR Media Group channel on Rumble, if you would, pretty please. All of that stuff, all of it's got to stop. Even if it's temporary, even if it's these 4 years, it's got to stop and it's got to be exposed and people have to see it. Because the truth is that U.S. aid is also the cash cow of George Soros and globalists. Again, I'm going to have a ton of videos to show you later on in the show. So in 2017, the Heritage Foundation claimed Soros's Open Society Foundation, the OSF, had been the main implementer of U.S. aid since at least 2009. But the connection actually started a lot earlier. There's credible evidence that during the Obama years, the U.S. Agency for International Development, that's what USAID stands for, was used to promote abroad policies that remained controversial within American society itself and they don't serve any clear security or national interest to us, to the United States. So to achieve these ends, USAID has teamed up with, in some countries, groups founded by, of course, George Soros, the dude who bankrupted, you may or may not know, the entire Bank of England. He's the world's 22nd wealthiest man, according to Forbes. At one point, he was the first. Following complaints from several foreign officials, a group of 6 senators asked Secretary of State Rex Tillerson under the 45 to investigate those reports. Tillerson should conduct such a probe. He didn't, and congressional committees should hold hearings, but they didn't. Now, a lot of people say, okay, PZ, cool. I got to go to a break because I need to go to a break, if you get my meaning, in about 2 minutes. But I'll be coming back on my opine. Now, it is Soros's right as a private individual to act on his convictions, but evidence is emerging and has emerged and is emerging now that during a bunch of years ago, 10 years ago at least, his Open Society foundations, and there are a whole bunch of smaller affiliates that are linked, have received U.S. taxpayer money through USAID, and that USAID has made the OSF the main implementer of its aid. This money goes through George Soros, as in, what the fuck? Given that a whole ton of the policies that Soros and the OSF promote, they don't enjoy consensus anywhere across U.S. society, and given that many Americans, in fact, find a lot of them repugnant, particularly now in this regime, the Trump administration should, in fact, actually investigate the extent of cooperation between the OSF and its affiliates and USAID and U.S. embassies abroad. Oh, I haven't even begun to get into this stuff. And fear not, because I usually like to rely on videos to show you things. We will have videos. We'll have probably a ton of videos, but I'm going to have to come back. And this is a hint. Go take care of yourself right now. And, relax, converse. Grab a drink. I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Come listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night Conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? Coming in November to SHR Media. By way of Big E Jackson, you need to check out Mission Ready Men. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man, as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson, coming this November on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. I am BZ. Thanks so kindly for watching tonight. Thanks to all the folks that are in chat. I greatly appreciate it. If you would, I'm not asking for cash or anything. Just subscribe to the show on Rumble, the SHR Media Group. And also subscribe to the SHR Media Network on the SHR Media YouTube channel. And forward all this good stuff. Share it sharingly in a sharing fashion. By the way, I told you that our plush, sumptuous, and palatial chat room would be changing. And it is, let me show you. This, I think, is temporary. It's sort of a winter motif. There's enough wood. I have enough wood for the fire. And you can't see it, but it's around the corner of the big sofa over there. So you can keep yourself nice and warm. And I've got the big windows so that you can see the snow fall. And it's a lovely place to be in a chat room. And I hope that's one of any number of things that attract you to being here tonight, is the glorious chat room. It's a great place to be. So we're talking about how the American taxpayers fund the entire planet. And then also we're talking about U.S. aid. There was A 1993 USAID document that shows the agency partnered with Soros's management training program to train 30 professionals from Bulgaria, Estonia, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. So according to USAID, Soros, whatever Soros wants, Soros gets, but with American taxpayer dollars. And what kind of training? I'm sure he's manifesting conservative training under those auspices. Is he not? Well, of course he would be. Fie on you for thinking otherwise. How sad. So the wealthiest man in the world at one time certainly needs our help, needs USAID's help, training leftist philosophies at our expense. So in the late 1990s and early 2000s, you may or may not remember the various color revolutions that shook Eastern Europe. Soros-backed NGOs, non-government organizations, like churches that love to bring illegal invaders into our nation so that they can kill and rape our citizens, our actual citizens. What a plus that is. Those NGOs played a big central role, and they worked alongside USAID. In 2003 to 2004, USAID and Soros organizations supported Ukraine's Orange Revolution. And so what happened is that U.S. cash was likely siphoned off to leftist agencies via Soros. Oh, no, BZ, say not so. In 2018, watchdog Judicial Watch revealed that USAID had funded Soros's agenda in Guatemala. Now, I'm going somewhere that you'll be able to make the connect very soon. Muy rapidamente. Soros's Open Society Foundation sent $100 million minimum in Latin America from 2015 to 2018, likely $200 million plus. Documents also showed that USAID and Soros-backed left-wing activists in Albania got money with $9 million allocated in 2016. This has been hard-earned American taxpayer dollars down a rat hole and a funding line for terrorists and those who despise the United States of America and actively work against her and against all her lawful American citizens. Again, you and me. The Soros Network has also been engaged in an active and ongoing effort to affect the politics, economies, and the societies of Latin America. No shock there that many countries in Latin America are also socialist, Marxist, communist in nature. Who could possibly have seen that? The Soros Open Society Foundation spent more than $36 million in the region in just 1 year, with most of the funding dedicated to human rights, air quotes, justice reform, air quotes, and democracy promotion projects, knowing, as we do now, that leftists and Democrats don't have a damn clue what democracy really is. But you do, and we do, and we're not a democracy, we're a republic. So the foundations have easily spent more than $500 million in the region since 2015. The intervention in the Open Society Foundation in Latin America coincided with the so-called pink tide, if you remember that, the resurgence of leftist leaders throughout much of Latin America, where they primordially sit today. That included the historical installation of, just kind of now grok a little bit of where I'm going. You'll see in just a moment. The historical installation of socialist presidents Evo Morales in Bolivia, Daniel Ortega in Nicaragua, Salvador Sanchez Cherin in El Salvador, as well as the lovely and disastrous regimes of Hugo Chavez and Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela. Hashtag because dictators always think they can be a better dictators than the dictators before them. I can be a better communist. I can do socialism better than the last guy. To kind of illustrate the scale of funds managed by Soros-linked initiatives in 2024, then President, I like to say that, past President Joe Vegetable requested nearly 30 billion taxpayer dollars for U.S. aid in the 2025 budget. So literally, Biden's fiscal year 2025 budget request for the Department of State and USAID, the United States Agency for International Development, what it stands for, was $42.8 billion for foreign assistance, which is $411.5 million above the fiscal year 2023 estimate. Oh, and this total includes $23.8 billion in foreign assistance for USAID fully and partially managed accounts. But here's the thing that we all must realize. The devil is always in the minutia. The devil is always in the details. Your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars at work. But you see, when you see leftists, the DLGs cork off, then you know that the exploding heads are also a critical and very important indicator that DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, is at work, utilizing volunteer nerds and wonks, which AOC railed over. Oh, they know nothing. Oh, yes, and an ex-bartender, I'm sure she knows everything. Because who do you get when your computer screws up? You get your 10-year-old neighbor down the street. In my case, it just screws up. That's a story for another day. This is delicious because this is what actually happened. Trump shut government out of government. Think about that for a second. That's just wondrous. So, DLGs realize that this is the one true shot that American taxpayers are going to get to attempt to defeat government waste and bloat, and in an attempt to cut back on permanent Washington as well as its linked deep state. Chuck Schumer said, now he's the guy that he said the primary reason to hate tariffs is what they're going to do to avocados and Corona beer and the guy who puts cheese on his steak while he's grilling it. Chuck Schumer said, this is an unelected shadow government conducting a hostile takeover of the federal government, which is the very definition of the deep state utilized by leftists over the decades to get precisely what they want. As per normal with Democrats, that's entirely backwards. What's actually occurring is that Democrats are losing power and control, which equates to cash. And that's why Democrats are shitting kittens and car parts. Guaranteed today. USAID, which Democrats love, is also, I said I was getting here, was I not? It's also a front for the CIA. As readily acknowledged, if there's a guy that you need to read who's an actual journalist, is Glenn Greenwald. Read some of his stuff. So, you may or may not have heard some of these things before, but if you haven't, sit back, knock back some tequila. So, what did USAID fund with our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars? Would it shock you to think that I have a list? It shouldn't. $20 million for Sesame Street in Iraq. $56 million to boost tourism in Egypt and Tunisia. What the fuck? Who cares? $40 million to build schools in Jordan. Jordan is run by a king, okay? A very wealthy king. $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash. $11 million to tell Vietnam to stop burning trash. Trash. $27 million for reintegration gift bags for deported Central Americans. Oh, you're leaving. You're getting on board this plane. Bye. We hope you had a good time. Here's a gift bag that cost you and me $27 million. $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbian workplaces. $70,000 for a DEI musical in Ireland to make the Irish smile. Irish eyes are always smiling. Who wouldn't want $70,000 for a DEI musical? $47,000 for a transgender opera in Colombia. $32,000 for a transgender comic book in Peru. Millions to Afghanis to grow other crops instead of opium. But you know what actually happened? After that, of course, opium production doubled. I wonder where that money went. It wouldn't have gone into opium production, would it? You know, if I actually had a producer, what would have happened is I would have said something similar to, that money to Afghanistan wouldn't have gone to opium. Jesus, I can't even pronounce the word opium production. Would it? Hello? So thank God I don't have a producer. This is glorious. $300 million to Afghanistan to build diesel-fueled power plants, which couldn't be used because under the Biden administration, diesel fuel was too expensive. $200 to build a dam that was too unsafe to ever be used. $250 million on a road that was never used because, Afghanis need those kinds of roads, I suppose. $9 million to Syria for humanitarian aid, which I'm sure never went to the Assad family, but instead actually went to Al-Qaeda. $1 million for bat research in Wuhan, China. USAID was funding Fashion Week in Paris, while at the same time, France doesn't even pay its full weight to NATO. Its dues. USAID funded 3 mobile phone video games designed to increase global awareness and bring about social change in the areas of health, gender equality, and empowerment. That's just a start. I could have continued. I found a ton more, but it's already 12 minutes before 9 Pacific and 12 minutes before 11 Central and 12 minutes before midnight Eastern. It's all fraud, waste, and American taxpayer abuse. It's a George Soros deep state DEI social justice ESG corrupt slush fund. It's no more complicated than that. It's a scam. It's a con. It's a deceit. It's an extortion game. It's a grift. USAID funded the Clinton Foundation, which lost billions of dollars in Haiti, which few Haitians ever saw. But hey, the Clintons got rich from that. It is a dark money, leftist Democrat super PAC that fund absolutely zero American interests. In fact, they're basically all anti-American interests, all paid with, as I say, the theme of the show tonight, all paid with your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars. Yes, the American taxpayer funds the entire fucking planet. Stop. Done. Enough. Musk's Doge volunteers, what's happening is they're sleeping in cots in an office somewhere, and federal workers are still refusing to go back to the office. Just a wee little bit of irony that. So, meanwhile, back in America, a one-time payment of $750 goes to the victims of Hurricane Helene, and a one-time payment of $770 to the victims of Southern California wildfires from the generous Biden regime. Now, I'd like to make this very important note. I hope you Southern California homeless victims work $20 harder for your government handouts, you parasites. You see, the cool thing about this show, or any of the SHR shows for that matter, is I don't have to make it up. They don't have to make it up. I don't write these things. I don't and can't force these things. All I do is I hop on the internet, which is right in front of me, 3 big screens right over here, and the screen that says BZ's Saloon right over there. That's actually a computer. And I get on the screens and I just jump around the internet. And then I tell you about it. And if I can find it, so can the American media maggots, which means they choose not to find it and not to honor the massive fiscal sacrifices made by you and me, the American taxpayer. Because, as I indicated, it is your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars that fund the entire planet. So let's go a little bit more into detail now. And with luck, I will get into happy stories. I got about 10 minutes before the top of the hour break. I can't stop, but I can't help but not play this. I'm going to have to play this. Remember Jim Acosta? Remember he kind of got kicked to the curb? Poor Jim.
Stop calling us the enemy of the people, sir. Will you stop calling the press the enemy of the people, sir? Mr. President, will you stop calling the press the enemy of the people, sir? Mr. President, if there is no collusion, Mr. President, if there is no collusion, why does Rudy Giuliani keep saying there is no crime and collusion? Mr. President, do you think other countries should not allow children to stay with their parents?
Acosta told he's leaving by name.
Since you're attacking us, can you give us a question? Mr. President-elect.
Okay,
Mr. President-elect, since you are attacking our news organization.
Wait, this is great. This is probably the best part right here.
Can you give us a chance? You are attacking our news organization. Can you give us a chance to ask a question, sir?
Go ahead.
Sir, can you state, Mr. President-elect, can you...
By the way, I think if I'm not mistaken, this is the first time that President Trump used the phrase fake news. Go.
Say categorically, Mr. President-elect, can you give us a question? You're attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude.
Can you give us a question? Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir, can you state categorically that nobody... No, Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
And,
Mr. President-elect, that's not appropriate.
Maybe we should make some bumper stickers, make some buttons. Maybe we should go out on Pennsylvania Avenue, like these folks who chant CNN sucks and fake news. Maybe we should go out, all journalists should go out on Pennsylvania Avenue and chant, "We're not the enemy of the people."
Except that you're the enemy of the people, comma. That's why I call you the American media maggots.
Because I'm tired of this. Honestly, Brooke, I'm tired of it.
You know, if you were an honest journalist, I use those air quotes, journalist, hey, you probably wouldn't be fired right now, would you, sir? You wouldn't be fired. CNN wouldn't have taken a dump, having the worst years ever in terms. My channel, my new channel, the Tibetan throat singing channel. I have 2. The Tibetan throat singing channel and the Budgie and Parakeet training album channel. Those are individually making more. They're more viewers are watching those channels than MSNBC and CNN together.
Mr. President, what did you mean when you said that Kirsten Gillibrand would do anything for a campaign contributor?
So it's not an easy negotiation.
Mr. President, since you attacked CNN, can I ask you a question?
John Roberts, go ahead, John. No. John Roberts, go ahead. CNN.
Okay, well, you see how this is going. Because, I wish I had more time, but unfortunately I don't have more time. I do have time for this, though. This is, heck, let's just see if I can play it.
I'm an honor teacher, so of course I make sure my classroom has all necessary supplies.
Perfect.
I'm an UNRWA worker, so of course I make sure all the humanitarian aid goes to those who really, really need it. She's an 88 years old pregnant woman.
That's right.
I'm an UNRWA teacher, so of course I teach history, biology, and English. You see, my struggle
Ya Allah. I'm a non-law worker. So of course I took a day off on October 7th. It's a national holiday. Come look at the video. You see? You see the one in running? This is me.
I'm a UNRWA teacher, so of course I ran student exchange program. She's from Israel.
I am Secretary General Guterres. I was horrified by what was revealed about UNRWA. So of course I think we need to double their funding. This is the UN. Don't try to understand.
How perfect. So maybe we're going to be focusing on UNRWA as well, as we should. This all came from this, and from Doge, and from Trump. Let's put this up on the stage. Senior USAID workers, staffers, placed on leave after alleged failure to obey executive orders. So would it be accurate to say, essentially, that they brought this upon themselves? And the answer is, well, yeah. That happens to be true. Elon Musk said Donald Trump agreed U.S. aid needs to be shut down. And of course, as I mentioned, heads are exploding all across the fruited plain and the rest of the leftist universe as well. Federal procurement data shows U.S. aid approved over $6 million in contracts on Friday. This past Friday, including a $1.2 million payment to Deloitte for HR services, $600,000 for International Center for Language Studies, and over $100,000 for miscellaneous foreign awardees. That was after they were told to stop. Despite the order from President Trump freezing the payments, USAID continued to defy that order as late as the 31st. So that's what they think of the Trump administration, which essentially is not much. I mentioned the CIA, didn't I?
So Doge ended USAID today. What is USAID? Well, it's not aid. It's the U.S. Agency for International Development. It was a CIA slush fund and money laundering operation for NGOs. They just found the devil's fucking purse, and they just
sure did.
Cut it off. Who were they
Baby.
funding? Well, people like the Clinton Foundation. Oh, imagine that. See how the CIA would do it. And if the CIA wants to do something, they would have to go to Congress for approval for the funds. So what they did was they used this U.S. Agency for International Development to simply write grants and send billions of dollars around the world for all their corrupt shit. There was this... How in the fuck, people? To the tune of $100 billion or $200 billion. They can't tell yet because it's so corrupt. They don't even know how much money it is. No wonder those people locked themselves in the building and the U.S. Marshals had to kick the door down and drag them out. People.
Which is the truth. That happened.
We are only 3 weeks in, and this is going to be a full-on revolution. There is no resistance. Trump has zero resistance up against him. The USAID, what else were they funding? Gain of function. That's where the money was coming from. You've heard that gain of function is funded by the CIA. Yes, it is. Right through here. They have the paper trail for Corona gain of function. And guess what other gain of function? Bird flu. They were going to hit us with a fucking bird flu pandemic. Yeah, that's why Trump silenced the FDA, CDC, NIH. They were going to launch another scam
and the WHO
pandemic on us, and he stopped it. There is nothing that can stop what is coming now. Their money has been cut off. All those fucking crooked fucks. Donald Trump has fucking removed the security clearances for nearly over 100 federal people. Bolton, Pompeo, Brennan, all the top names.
Milley.
Any talking head you've ever seen. Not only that, but then he banned them from entering any federal buildings. People, this is better than I ever thought it could be. Oh my God. We're just going to watch it crumble. We're going to watch it.
This is first generation, never before witnessed in the history of the United States of America material.
Crumble. What are the liberals crying about? CNN today is crying about how fucking in the federal building, in the FBI building, they're painting over a diversity mural. Perfect.
Oh,
you guys stay worrying about that while we're cleaning up this fucking country. Go cry in the corner. The adults are back to work. This is the upswing, people. Long live the Republic. This is a revolution. I'm fucking here for it. It's beautiful.
It is beautiful. As I told Sean, by the way, you need to watch The Edge of Liberty. I was on his show last night. Maybe I was in my cups a little bit. Don't look there. Look over here, not over there. And essentially said, this is unprecedented. And there is no precedent for anything that is occurring right now. All of this is occurring. This is a true governmental tsunami. This is reworking everything you can possibly rework. And this is me saying, hey, maybe if you got to go to the electric winkle chamber again, this is the time to do it.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, it's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Join me right here on the SHR Media Network every Monday and Friday, 12 on the Pacific, 3 on the East Coast. On this show, we'll discuss news, politics, the government, how cranky we are about the government, and more. If you want to hear hard talk, good interviews, sarcasm, bad jokes, and oh God, that really is me in a nutshell. Either way, check me out right here on the Edge of Liberty every Monday and Friday, 12 Pacific, 3 on the East, on the SHR Media Network.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we are back. I am BZ. I am the faithful one. I am your conservative Sherpa, guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist DLG lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Thank you for being here tonight. Thanks for everyone being in chat. Thank you for listening live. Thank you for listening and watching later in podcast. And a ton of people in chat. There's Dale Benson in chat. There's the great Sean in chat. Mission Ready Men in chat. A whole bunch of people. Unleashed Jeremy Hansen is in chat. River of Common Sense. And by the way, you could be in chat too. You could be in the chat room. I think I showed this before, but you guys need to, I will have another chat room emerging next week. And if you happen to think that this is a cool wintry chat room, oh my God, wait until you see what I have waiting for you. Not this Thursday, but next week. It'll be grand. It'll be glorious. We're talking about U.S. aid. We're talking about the American taxpayer funds the entire planet, our hard-earned American taxpayer dollars, funding the entire planet. And the CIA is part of U.S. aid, and Democrats, leftists, and globalists are breastbeating, pearl clutching, camshaft shitting people right now because the spice is interrupted.
The senator from Connecticut, Senator Chris Murphy.
So, Elon Musk has been floating all sorts of awful, terrible conspiracy theories about what happens at USAID. Let's make it very clear that every single day, America is safer because of what happens at USAID.
No, all the international countries are safer. Not us. We are not the priority.
USAID fights terrorist groups all across this world, making sure that we address the underlying causes for a retreat to terrorism. USAID chases China all around the world, making sure that China doesn't monopolize contracts for critical minerals and port infrastructure all around the world. It supports freedom fighters everywhere in this world. Up until yesterday, delivering firewood, for instance, to the brave Ukrainian defenders on the Eastern Front.
Now, if you believe that, I have something akin to a bridge that you could purchase if you're a moron, but I digress. So, if you're not following on X, this guy named Mike Benz, who's a former intelligence dude, you should, at Mike Benz, B-E-N-Z, Cyber, at Mike Benz Cyber. And he's got a little video I'm going to play. After the CIA scandals of the 1970s, and I was around for all of that, thank you, William Casey, most of the CIA work pumping up and funding media outlets all over the world was moved over to USAID. Stop. Did I say that correctly? Yes. The CIA was pumping up and funding media outlets all over the world via USAID, where it remains to this day, doing its wonderful work, and which USAID still spends billions of dollars each year maintaining and expanding its captured media empire. So let's see. That means that George Soros not only meant and did at this point, I don't think it's been rescinded yet. It may. But George Soros managed to crap on the FCC and got it approved by a leftist to purchase 200 more terrestrial radio stations. And then Soros, under USAID, has more. How did this happen?
From the CIA's headquarters, Stockwell sent his propagandists to Britain, Portugal, Zambia, and Zaire. Far from the battlefield in Angola, they wrote news releases for the two Western-backed factions, and these were fed into the ticker tapes of the Western media. Stockwell's CIA man also wined and dined Western journalists and gave them personal briefings. His man in Zambia was particularly enthusiastic.
He ran a story that the city of Malanje had been captured by the UNITA forces, and in doing so, it captured 20 Russian advisors. And they thought this would show that Russians were running the thing in Angola. There weren't Russian advisors. It wasn't a factor, and we knew that.
But the story did well. The Toronto Star, like many newspapers, picked it up from Reuters news agency.
I remember reporting that very clearly.
Fred Berglund was the Reuters reporter who filed the story from Zambia.
Years later, I discovered that a little CIA misinformation expert had sat in the U.S. Embassy in Lusaka and had composed that communique, and it bore absolutely no relationship at all to truth. You've got to remember, at that stage, during a war, you're working under incredible pressure. I worked for 4 months without a day off for 16 hours a day. And all that was wanted was a flow of information. I'd done the same in the Middle East war. I was based in Damascus. And in the first week of the war in Damascus, I wiped out the Israeli Air Force 3 times over with official statements.
Reuters, with its headquarters here on London's Fleet Street, is one of the world's largest news agencies. It's
news. Air quotes, news.
Its Its international bureaus provide many newspapers with their only source of news from far parts of the globe.
Convenient.
Well, I mean, with hindsight, some of the official statements from the side I was reporting, and I stress from the side I was reporting, but also from the side that people in Luanda with the MPLA reported, clearly most of those statements were completely false.
The CIA man in Zambia soon came up with an even better story.
It was all fiction.
Fiction, maybe, but it showed up on the front page of papers like the Toronto Star. The Toronto Globe and Mail also ran the story, and its headline attributed it to Angolan guerrillas. Many other Canadian newspapers in cities like Winnipeg picked up the story.
Basically, and to put it very crudely, you can publish any old crap you like, and it will get newspaper room.
Huh, imagine that. Publish any crap you like, but now that's called fake news. CIA manipulated fake news, but no, it can't be fake news. Also from Mike Benz. What you're going to quickly find as you enter the amazing U.S. aid vortex of despair is that virtually every powerful political and financial motor of American society that promotes and lobbies for U.S. aid is either directly on U.S. aid's payroll, works at a place that is, or her owners do. Then this came up. I think it was Sackhead Sean who referred me to this site, Aesthetica, at ANC, bottom whatever the fuck that is, aesthetics. But they've said, why is USAID giving millions of dollars to Bill Kristol? Bill Kristol, 650, Dorothy S. Mem. Bill Kristol, who says he's a Republican, but he's a massive rhino and hasn't met a conservative that he doesn't despise. And Bill Kristol writes, the deep state is far preferable to the Trump state. And then another guy underneath that, I wish I could show you this really up close, but just because of the configuration of the confusers right here, I can't. But Data Republican, small r, dear Mr. Kristol, for you, the deep state is preferable because you are listed as the president of Defending Democracy. There's an EIN number, which is an indirect beneficiary of U.S. aid through Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. You are exposed. Thank you. Bill Kristol is nothing but an asshole rhino sucking at the teat of George Soros and U.S. aid. You see, again, these people are getting their asses revealed. Here's Milo at Nero. By closing USAID, Trump and Musk have toppled the most gigantic global terror network in organization history. Bridget Gabriel says exactly right. And then Nathan the Black, stealing millions, stealing billions. And then down here, Congress, stealing trillions. Don't look. We've been doing it for years. Don't catch us. Miranda Devine. This is another little thing about Mike Benz. I will not be able to play all of this, but I want you to understand the basic thrust out of all of this. I like Miranda Devine. She's an actual journalist. She can be a little left of center to me sometimes, but that's okay. I don't mind. I like to listen to all sorts of people unless they're just absolute frothing massive leftists. To understand how USAID has protected itself for so long, read this brilliantly lucid account of what happened to Trump 1.0 appointed Mark Moyer in 2019 when he uncovered corruption, fraud, and waste at the agency. His book is a blueprint for how to dismantle a deep state, and it's been well read in Trump world. Trump 2.0, and I completely agree with this, has learned all the right lessons from the sabotage and the lawfare of the past. It's going scorched earth to purify a corrupt establishment. And I'll play a little bit of this.
This by now should be a familiar picture to people who've been subbed for a while, where I've described the inside of the blob. Now, what's going on in this picture? For people who are new here or just to freshen up, for folks who need a reminder. This describes our trifecta of foreign policy establishments. And again, foreign policy just means the American empire instead of the American homeland. We are an empire that stretches the globe. We must manage our empire affairs, our vassal states, our markets. And so we have three big agencies in the government that do that. And none of these agencies are allowed to operate at home. Those are the State Department for U.S. national interests, the Defense Department, the Pentagon for national security, and our intelligence community, which provides covert or plausibly deniable assistance on national interest grounds or national security grounds. National security grounds meaning a military threat. National interest, if you remember, it's we want it, we got it. National interest means anything. Does it make us richer? Do we want it? Okay. Now, the part that I've left out of this to avoid confusion is a big old entity right in the middle of them. That entity is USAID. Now, USAID was created in the early 1960s by President John F. Kennedy because the American empire had been tripping over itself for some time, because when we set up the CIA in 1947 and we reframed the Department of War to the Department of Defense in 1947, and we began this creation, really expansion, dramatic expansion of the American empire abroad, outside, we had the DOD doing international development work, so to speak, for military reasons. We had the State Department doing international development work, if you will, humanitarian work, supporting local institutions for national interest reasons. And we had the CIA doing its own thing. So they were all tripping over each other. The Pentagon, the State Department, and the CIA were all tripping over each other. There was no centralized agency to coordinate all the different reasons that we run money into foreign countries to influence the course of events in those countries. Again, they all face outward. They're supposed to. What is USAID? When people hear the name USAID, they focus on aid. They focus on thinking like it's humanitarian work. But aid is not actually in the name of USAID. USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development. Not.
Did you understand that? Democrats, leftists, and globalists don't want you to know that USAID doesn't involve aid. This was a grand summary. Pass this show on to everyone who needs to know about the true nature of USAID and its anti-American thrust, because it doesn't give a shit about actual Americans. It couldn't care less about you. It's to enable itself and enrich itself. And then people are crying all over because we found out about them. We made a discovery. Let me see if I can play this. This is grand.
Some people get fired, and I thought it was just them, and it turned out it was 60 senior people for USAID. And like
Okay, so this is from CBS News. This is some chick, a USAID employee named Christina Dry. Listen to what her first motive is in terms of what do I have to take care of in the office here.
Watched it happen, and that was just absolutely heartbreaking. People who've given decades of their work to this kind of this work. I mean, they've given their lives. And then it kind of went really downhill, and Doge was in the building. We took down our pride flags. We took down
our pride flags.
I took out any books I felt would be incriminating. No one was talking.
Okay, if you don't feel guilty about it, why are you removing them? You should feel proud of all of that stuff, right? Proud.
I heard they started taking transcripts automatically of all of our Google Meets.
Imagine
they unplugged the news in the little kitchen galleys.
Oh no, not the news in the kitchen galleys.
It didn't feel.
I'm actually kind of surprised that there aren't tears. Now, there will never be from a leftist tears and snot. Tears and snot are what you would get that are concomitant to an actual person, a suspect, a criminal confessing. And if he really means it, you get tears and snot. If you get just tears alone, there's no heartfelt anything in that.
Good. And then Friday, we heard that Doge was here taking down the signs. And then Saturday, all of the websites went down. And then I lost complete access to my computer. My biggest fear is what I think most people whose works here, biggest fear is that millions of people are going to stop, getting the aid that we provide with less than 1% of the American, federal budget.
But aid isn't the point. Are you starting to understand the concepts behind all of this? U.S. aid isn't aid. U.S. aid doesn't have anything to do with the United States. U.S. aid has the only goal of U.S. aid is to steal your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars, fund them, and push leftist causes. The USA can go to hell. Now, they don't mind using you and plunging a big damn needle into your arm to suck out as much blood and money as they possibly can. Oh, hell yeah. That's great. That's wonderful. But all it does is promote leftist causes. Aesthetica. Talk to a friend who has connections within the Democrat Party, and he said the level of panic over Trump and Elon shutting down U.S. aid is unlike anything he's ever seen. To me, that's where the word delicious, that's delicious. The word delicious comes into play. By following the money, Doge has struck a killing blow to the heart of the Democrat deep state machine. Stop. No, it hasn't. That is where you and I must be vigilant, and we must keep the pressure on. All throttle, no brake. This thing hasn't been broken. It's been exposed. It's crazy. It's wailing. It's breast beating. But it's not stopped. What is this second week of Trump? Maybe potentially 3 weeks into 4 years. Oh, the work is just starting. I'm going to read this to you. You may not be able to see this because it's not as perhaps as large as it should. Direct quote. This is from Aesthetica. Oh, this is worse than 9/11 for Democrats. U.S. aid is the primary vessel they use to achieve their political agenda. U.S. aid is and always has been the primary source of funding for their influence peddling schemes and for their indirect sources of income. Another text. Based on the reactions from within the party, it seems to me that dismantling U.S. aid is Trump's biggest political victory to date. It was his enemy's golden goose. It was his enemy's golden goose. And finally, something is getting done for us by Trump when he said, no, they're targeting me, yeah, but they're also targeting you, me, the American taxpayer. Another text, same source who told me during the campaign, well before it was made public, that Kamala's internal polling had her behind Trump, so his information is good. The guy that's giving Aesthetica the information right now. Another important addition, he said initial plans by the Democrats is to have their people at U.S. aid hide the partisan funding under, quote, unimpeachable initiatives. They will push back really hard on certain line items that on their face look like reasonable U.S. aid expenditures. This is how these fuck nozzles work. You and I already know this, but this show exists as to do nothing but expose it and to be used as a reference in the future. A reference, an archive that finally work is getting done for you, for me. Another likely solution for Democrats that they already use to reward VIPs is to use NGOs as an intermediary to direct funds where they want them to go. So this is all convoluted, as I said before in the first hour, purposely so. It's a maze to make it as difficult as possible to negotiate. And that's why when Anthony Fauci's mouth is moving, his lips are going like this, he's lying. He's parsing like a motherfucker because he's doing the same thing for his money to fund gain-of-function research to Wuhan that he loves. I wasn't involved in that. Said the highest paid federal employee in the history of federal employment at $460 some odd thousand, about twice what the president makes. And by the way, this president is again under 47 and 45, not taking a salary. Huh. Imagine that more. Another likely solution for Democrats is that they are going to reward VIPs. So if Trump, Elon want this to stick, they need to completely shut down U.S. aid or fire the entire staff. The party has instructed their allies to not make waves and blend in. That's exactly what the deep state does. They embed themselves like a tick. And then when you pull the fat body off and the blood squirts out, the head is still in there. So make no mistake, if you think that these assholes are going easily, they are not. And again, as was said before, people, oh, no, this didn't happen. U.S. aid was created by executive order. Learn history. In September 1961, Kennedy signed into law the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, Public Law 87-195, which mandated the establishment of a single agency for coordination of foreign assistance. And now you know the reason why, because you just watched the video indicating so. Well, how did this come about? Well, Kennedy himself, I'm sure, would be absolutely beside himself to understand or to see what has happened to what may have been essentially something crafted with goodwill, but turned out absolutely terrible. Again, Mike Benz. Over on Blue Sky, oh, you're going to recognize this name. This name will come back and hit you like a wet mackerel in the side of the head. Dish, dish, dish. Over on Blue Sky, former DHS Disinformation Governance Board head Nina Jankowicz, I'm going to show you that in just a moment, is openly calling for USAID's current employees to make it as difficult as possible for the elected government to oversee its own agency. They have talked about doing something so dumb, yes, but doing so is a lot more complicated than moving the website. They are embedding themselves. They see what is happening and they are reacting. Preparing for it by taking the site down, more probable. Don't give them a win they don't yet have. Employees at AID are going to make it as difficult as possible for them. So who is this crazy Nina Jankowicz? Anybody remember her? If I'd been thinking about it, I would have had the video to play. She's just a damn nutcase. And again, Mike Benz. USAID gives money to mobs of striking protesters so they can collect no-show job salaries while striking and doing street protests that USAID wants in a region. Read this. They first directed the IWC to initiate their previously developed influence campaign. The IWC's approach empowered in coordination to inflame long-standing friction between Nehruvian workers and Chinese corporations. Within days, protests supported by the CFT's ODA erupted around Chinese businesses, headquarters, and embassies. Well, what the hell? That is certainly not the stated goal of USAID, is it, if you just ask them? So USAID and NGOs established job fairs near protest areas, providing disaffected workers with alternative employment options. Within 2 weeks, the construction company lost 60% of its required labor pool. This is considered winning. Here's Mike Benz again.
Everyone can look this up if you're listening right now. In 2021, the U.S. Special Forces Perspective, under Mark Milley, our chairman of the Joint Chiefs, put out an entire instruction manual.
The traitor.
For how the U.S. military can work with the State Department and our intelligence services to organize a rent-a-riot, to destabilize a country in order to bring them to the negotiating table,
They gave an example of a hypothetical West African country where a member of U.S. Special Forces is on a separate mission, driving down a highway, and notices a billboard for Chinese infrastructure investment into a new port in this Western African country. The unit takes note of this billboard on a highway in Western Africa with Chinese symbols on it. They do their own investigation and figure out that this is part of a real estate development project from Chinese investors that as part of that development project will have the construction of a Chinese naval port.
Stop right there. We're going to take a break. This is our final break, and I will be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Welcome to River of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a sharp wit and clear discussion. Tune in every Monday and Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for a refreshing dose of reality as we fearlessly tackle a tough topic with no nonsense, just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com to discover where you can catch River of Common Sense in action. He's here to amplify your inner logic. He may not always be polite, he may not always be refined, but one thing's for sure, he always tells it like it is.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. I am the aforementioned BZ Blow-Eating Zeppelin Biff Zeppi, Bravo Zulu, however you'd like to call me. Subscribe to the channel here on Rumble. Subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel, if you would please. Thanks to KLRN for carrying my show as well. And thanks to everybody here for carrying my show. Because without you and without the people that are watching and listening and the people in chat, then, by the way, this is the chat room. Just, it still smells a little bit like plastic. I'm kind of trying to burn it out of it because some of the pillows are new. The candles are definitely new, but it's a beautiful place with, especially in the wintertime like that. Look at the beautiful windows that I've managed to install all by my own little fat lonesome. It's a beautiful place to be. Anyway, the theme of the show tonight is your American taxpayer dollars fund the entire damn planet. And we're talking about U.S. aid. And we were also talking about Mike Benz, if he would continue about that and how the military, the U.S. military, manages under Mark Milley to work with USA
development project from Chinese investors that as part of that development project will have the construction of a Chinese naval port in this West African country, where in theory, China would then be able to project naval influence in the Atlantic Ocean. What the Special Forces Guide calls for is coordination with the State Department, coordination with our intelligence services, coordination with our psychological operations unit, to take all of our assets in that West African region And in that case, what they did is they planned to work with the unions. What they did is they embarked in a social media influence campaign. They would activate all their media assets, all of their civil society institutional assets, and all of their union assets to have the union labor pool in that West African country. Well, actually, there was one thing that happened first, is they first then went, in this hypothetical, the State Department sent a delegation to persuade the West African country to forbid the development license to the Chinese developer. And the head of that West African government said no. Because something was happening in the hypothetical in the next 30 days, there was a time sensitivity to generate an instability event to stop this using time-sensitive emergency. And so the way they
generate an instability event.
That was they worked with their union contacts in the region and the media contacts in the region and created this whole social media campaign to inflame the sentiments of the West African labor union workforce who were working for Chinese companies at the time. Because in this hypothetical, the Chinese mining firms and Chinese industry was employing a lot of these Africans. And it was to destabilize the country, to bring the mines, to bring the factories, to bring all of the Chinese production in the region to a halt, and to put all these Africans out of jobs, and to bring the African government effectively to a standstill. At the same time, in their own Special Forces manual, it called for support from U.S. aid to provide these same striking miners alternative jobs, so that while they were striking from the Chinese labor companies, they were still getting paid by U.S. taxpayers. So they were financially bribed effectively to boycott Chinese industry and to devastate their own country's government, create this crisis, and then use the State Department delegation to go back to the negotiating table with the West African government and promise to end the destabilization if the development was halted. And in that hypothetical, the West African government then rejects the license for the real estate development of China, and that is declared as an unalloyed success by the U.S. Special Forces and their partner network in the State Department and Intelligence. And this is the way of our diplomacy in 2021. And this is all publicly available if you look at the Special Forces prospectus. And when this goes live, I'll post this on my X account at Mike Ben Cyber, so that you can, don't take my word for it. But this is how we operate. And so I see what we're doing with these missile attacks and with these calls for our 12 CIA bases on the Russian border to be able to do long-range precision-guided strikes into Russia as maybe setting off World War III, but it may also be part of a destabilization threat that gives Russia a reason to give the territories back to Ukraine in order to stop the blood from its own main arteries.
That's why I say this is convoluted. This is Machiavellian. If you think that this corporation, USAID, is simply doing God's work and flipping aid and money all over the place, and the poor little brown babies are going, oh, we want you, USAID, wherever you are helping us. We are beholden to you, the United States. No, the actual truth is they can't wait to hate you. They're being taught to hate you by leftists. Using the military, using the CIA. This has nothing to do with aid. This has everything to do with advancing agendas. Conservative agendas? Oh, of course not. Leftist agendas. Now, there's something called the Atlantic Council. This is also, Mike Benz is a veritable fount of information about this stuff at Mike Benz Cyber. This is a 48-minute video of which I'm not going to play any of it, but you need to be aware and you need to know if you want to watch the entire thing, go to on X at Mike Benz, B-E-N-Z, Cyber, at Mike Benz Cyber. Watch the whole thing. And again, this will tie all the strings together for you. This has nothing to do with aid. These people they're enduring pants-shitting PSH, pants-shitting hysteria right now because they've been discovered, and they're huddling and circling the wagons like good Democrats and leftists do every time that the truth is uncovered, including massive portions of our government. Why is USAID funding this organization with 7 CIA directors on its board to train hundreds of people in censorship training seminars on how best to flag Donald Trump's tweets for misinformation? Now, this video, 48-minute video, has 2 million views already. But it doesn't mention until you get into the video, and I watched it, of course, to discover that The council that they're talking about, the organization that they're talking about, the leftist, massive leftist organization that they're talking about is called the Atlantic Council. Mark that or write it down and go investigate that. The Atlantic Council, and find out the nature of whatever it is that they do. I'm sure they would quantify it as, oh, it's work. It's good work. It's really good. Well, for them, it's really good work. Now, here's a guy that I really admire. If this were important, which it isn't, I would emphasize it all the time. There's one really sharp dude that was in 45's administration, and he's back under 47. And that's Richard Grenell. He was ambassador to, help me out here, I can't remember where he was ambassador, but he was an ambassador under 45. And Richard Grenell is gay. Now, in any other administration, that would mean something. I don't give a fuck if he's gay or not. But if that were a Democrat administration, oh, gay Grenell. He's just a worker. He loves America, and I like him a lot. What a great guy. You saw him, of course, during little press conference with Karen Bass in Los Angeles, sitting directly on Donald Trump's left. What Samantha Power did with your tax dollars at USAID should be an FBI investigation. She used your money to fund crazy radical programs and far left activists. Investigate. Well, let's look. Jeff Carlson, USAID is just the tip of a vast corrupt iceberg. It's all of DC. Every single federal program, every single federal agency. So check the spin-offs. USAID Global Health. USAID's Bureau for Humanitarian Assistance. Wait, I thought that's what USAID was. USAID Haiti. USAID Education. Samantha Power. At Power USAID, which tells you all you need to know about her. I would suggest that that's corrupt. Or correct. Corrupt and correct. 46 people watching live right now. Thank you to everyone who's watching live and in podcast. And of course, you are leftists just going wild, going crazy wild. Take it away, Omar. Brotherfucker.
It is really, really a sad day in America. We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator.
Okay, stop right there. Just remember, with these shit sticks, everything that they say are the things that they themselves are doing, only worse. When she says blah, 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 the reverse is true. It's BZ's reversal axiom. Whatever they're saying, the reverse is true, and they be doing that and shit.
On day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like.
Now, as I've said before, if Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, were actually a dictator, he would have created a massive diktat under 45. Would he have not? Yes.
When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made. What Trump and Elon and all of their cronies are trying to do is take away the constitutional power of Congress.
Okay, here's the weird thing. Not too many complaints about Tom Homan, who was already in the federal government. And yeah, they hate him because they ain't him, or words to that effect, Senator. I don't remember how that things go. Move on, BZ. Tom Homan is doing his job. Tom Homan got appointed because he knows how to do his job. Elon Musk also got appointed because he's kind of a czar. Tom Homan was a czar, but Donald John Trump, OMB, can pick essentially anybody that he wants. And he said also yesterday or today, I think it was yesterday, he said, this will never get played by leftists, but he said, Elon Musk doesn't do anything that I don't already pre-approve. I repeat, Elon Musk, and he said this out loud. Nobody covered it. Elon Musk doesn't do anything that I haven't already pre-approved. Elon Musk doesn't rule the world. He doesn't rule the planet. Now your hard-earned taxpayer dollars pay for every fucking thing on the planet. Dictator?
We get to decide. We have the power of the purse. We get to decide where money is allocated, and it's the executive's power to make sure that that money...
Like the EPA makes its own regulations, like the ATF gets to make its own regulations, like the various other cabinet positions get to make their own regulations. They don't run it through Congress. They don't run it through the Senate. They don't run it through the House. But now, oh, massive umbrage that your shit has been found.
Gets to where it needs to get.
It's been uncovered, and it's stinky.
When we talk about civil servants being let go, what we are talking about is not saving money. It's essentially saying they can get paid while they're home and their work doesn't get done on behalf of the American people.
Oh, you mean like the federal employees that are staying home, not doing any work, and still get paying by you, the American taxpayer.
It is us, taxpayers, who are being ripped off.
Oh, ain't that rich? Now she's concerned about her taxpayer dollars being used for something she doesn't like. Oh, it doesn't make any difference as long as personal oxes aren't gored. She got her ox gored. Oh, brother fucker.
It is us, taxpayers, who are not getting the resources that we paid into. So I ask the American people.
Okay, I've had enough of this bint, and I think you have too. So, BZ, move on. I shall, because I've got so much stuff. Oh my God. I may, what do I got? About another 12 minutes to the top of the hour. I'm not going to be going into overtime, sadly. Hey, folks, did you know this? Mike Benz at Mike Benz Cyber. No, really. Why was USAID backing Burisma? USAID to help young Biden. The Burisma file. Senate Bill 2277 directs the U.S. Agency for International Development. Now, again, I emphasize, re-emphasizingly, in a re-emphasizing emphasis kind of way. USAID isn't about aid to another country. USAID is the U.S. Agency for International Development, not aid. It's embiggening the leftist goals, which is why George Soros loves it. Senate Bill 2277 directs U.S. aid to guarantee loans for every phase of the development of oil and gas in Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. Why? Why? BZ, why you treat me like that? Is co-branding with USAID and Burisma. This public-private partnership was launched. This Ukrainian is a corrupt bad actor in 2014. His control of Burisma, the very sticky wicket of the Hunter Biden connection on the Burisma board. The main objective of the contest was to create incentives for journalists to ensure responsible and unbiased coverage. Of course. And then here's an agreement. The Municipal Energy Reform Project in Ukraine, MERP. I'm just going to offend. Every once in a while, I'm just going to say MERP. I kind of like that. MERP. I'll just say MERP. And Burisma Holdings. Oh, look down there in the yellow. Down here, the United States Agency for International Development, USAID, is in partnership with Burisma. How does that happen? Because the corruption runs deep. The corruption runs really deep. Well, I think I might be able to get to a couple of stories. In conclusion, Senator, I'd like to say, if you don't understand how deep and long and wide the corruption is at USAID, it doesn't just need to be reformed. It doesn't just need to be stashed inside of Marco Rubio's coat as Secretary of State. It needs to have its asshole ripped out. 60 people are watching me live right now. Thank you ever so kindly for watching live, being in the chat room, and watching in podcast. USAID needs to be set on fire and burned to the... if it was a boat, it needs to be burned down to the water line. That's why Toranaga burned all the boats. Hey, remember that power plant that all of a sudden after 11 years it isn't functioning very well? Your American taxpayer dollars at work under Obama, your money got sent $2.2 billion to a solar power plant in the Mojave Desert, which is closing by the end of the year. It was open 11 years ago. It's outdated. It's a waste of taxpayer money. Arnold. This is for Rick Robinson. So you can snatch this little vocal thing out of here. Rick, this is for you. I want to hear the lamentations of your women.
This will become the biggest solar plant in the world.
Not in China, not in India, but in California.
The Ivanpah solar plant went live 11 years ago. It was supposed to produce clean power.
By the way, anytime you are moving from Las Vegas to, say, LA or LA to Las Vegas on 15, you went right by this thing. And it was a huge tower with a bunch of solar panels in an array around it. And what it did basically was crisp the shit out of birds.
For at least 30 years. Instead of solar panels, it uses giant mirrors to concentrate the sun's energy on these towers, which boil water, generating steam, creating electricity.
It's going to put about 1,000 people to work, building a state-of-the-art facility.
As part of his climate agenda, President Obama gave Ivanpah 1.6.
By the way, on that part of the freeway, there should have been signs all along the way. Don't look at that big tower because you will be blinded, especially at night, even during the day as well. I went there numerous times, and you can't help. Your eyes cannot help but move over to there. Don't stare at that thing. You may as well be staring at the sun, you loon.
It's $1 billion in federal loans, a $535 million grant, a 30% tax credit worth about $600 million, and an accelerated depreciation schedule that allowed investors to write off their capital investment in just 5 years.
The fact of the matter is, American taxpayers wind up holding the bill, whether it's a Solyndra, whether it's this project here.
In addition to taxpayer losses, California's ratepayers were forced to buy Ivanpah power at 5 times the market rate to help meet the state's renewable energy mandate.
Winning. Hashtag winning. Losing your money. Taking your hard-earned American taxpayer dollars and making you pay more for what you already gave in. Nuts. It's nuts. It's nuts.
These are expensive subsidies, and they just, not only do they cost the taxpayers, but they just distort the market.
Others cite Ivanpah's impact on wildlife, killing thousands of birds who fly anywhere near the plant's intense heat, as shown in this government video.
When they see the birds actually going up in flames, they created a name for that. They call them screamers.
Screamers. Imagine that. Oh, they call them screamers. I'm sure PETA would like to know about that. Did PETA ever know about that? Probably not. I have, what do I have? I have about 6 more minutes. And like I say, I'm not going to go into overtime. But shoot. Let's do this. Anyway, shall we?
It's time for Happy Stories and Good Times.
Here's a happy story. This is just for you. This just came in. This telegraph. New Jersey Governor Murphy backtracks on his dare to ICE in his New Jersey home. Okay, what kind of a moron dares Tom Homan to come into his house and reveals that there's a female illegal invader in the house? He put the X right on her in his house. What kind of a moron does that? The answer is a New Jersey leftist Democrat moron, Phil Murphy. And then today, that was yesterday, okay? Today's Tuesday. That was Monday. Oh, Tom Homan, I'm big and bad. Murphy, come in and get my illegal invader that's in my house. Today, he walks it back, which he live streamed on his YouTube channel, where he challenges immigration officials. Go ahead, raid my multi-million-dollar property. Because he doesn't live within his means, does he? A multi-million-dollar property? Well, apparently that is his means, or he's gotten bank loans. Biggest bank loans. So then his spokesman said the individual in question is a legal U.S. resident who was consumed by fear amid heightened immigration, but no one without permanent residency is in the country illegally, but ICE maintains the authority to detain certain individuals with temporary status. That's wrong. But then he backed down. I think that's a happy story. Here's another one. I think I got time. Yeah, I got time for, let's see, where am I? I got time for this one. This is a wonderful story. And my fingers were crossed. The Senate confirmed Pam Bondi as Attorney General with bipartisan support, 54-46. Hey, wait. You know who also in the Democrat side voted for her? John Fetterman. Folks, if there was anyone who has apparently gone through one serious mental reform, it's John Fetterman. This guy, who I thought at the outset was just nuts, he had a stroke, went to the hospital, checked himself in for mental issues at Walter Reed Hospital, and came out as something of a Democrat moderate who apparently met his own fate and realized, hey, I might have just a little bit of mortality to me. And he's been much more reasonable ever since. And in terms of reasonable, here, let's move this over here. Let's do this over here. And then let's be reasonable and do this. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show live and direct right here on Rumble tonight. Thank you ever so kindly. 61 people listening live. Thanks to everyone for their comments live in the chat room. New revamped chat room next week, as I remind you. And thanks to the munificently grandiose KLRN for carrying the show, and tons of other bulbous podcast locales. And as per normal, as I am wont to say, promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones, Arrakis boards, that's my board right there, and also by Pratt & Whitney engines producing thrust. You can trust. Tiaras are by My Little Pony. And thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I shall be concerting in less than 10 minutes, about 35 feet that away through that door that you can't see right there. Thanks to everybody for being here, listening and watching live, listening and watching in podcast later on, being in the chat room. Everybody, to one and all, God bless. Take care. You be safe. Come back Thursday.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben.
Good night, everyone. Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy.
Wait, I seem to have forgotten my manners. I'm going to have to do something about that. So, next up for bid is the Edge of Liberty show here on the SHR Media Network. Today is Tuesday. Sean's Edge of Liberty show will be on tomorrow night, Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 o'clock Central, and that would be 10 Central and 11 o'clock Eastern. And also following that, Thursday morning at 9 a.m., you need to listen to this guy, Earl, Big E. Jackson of Mission Ready Men. He has his show on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. But wait, there's more. And then I'm going to do this anyway. The Rick Robinson Show, TRRS, is on Tuesday through Thursday, basically noon to 3 p.m. Pacific, 2 to 5 Central, and 3 to 6 Eastern. Don't forget one more individuale, and that is the Reaver of Common Sense. And Jersey Joe's show, The Reaver of Common Sense, is on this coming Friday night, 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, and 9 p.m. Eastern. Hope that made sense. I need to do something about that. I need to remind everybody of that before I go. Anyway, please continue.
Good night, Elizabeth. Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night,
Jim
Bob.
Bob.
Good night, and good luck.